friends, welcome back once again. Thank you so much for joining me here today. In this video, it's going to be an extension of the last video. We talked about the hook grip. This is going to be talking about different methods for taping your hands to train the hook grip or to compete with the hook grip using taping scheme, I guess, the taping job that is legal in the US APL and IPF, as well as the differences from doing that versus taping your thumbs or hands for a training environment, because you're handling way more volume and it's just way tougher on the skin of your hands. You're more likely to tear a callus. And then we're also going to cover how to tape your hands effectively if you have torn a callus and still want to train without resorting to having to use straps or pulling out from what you're doing. So first of all, we're just going to talk about some of the tools that you need. Tape. Any generic sports tape is fine. I think I got this at a local Fred Meyer for about $4. It's not super expensive. They come in rolls like this. I like to work with half rolls, and basically what this is I took a pair of scissors, I made a cut in the middle of one of the rolls of athletic tape. These are terrible scissors. And then you pin that down, you pull it off. When it gets back to here, you just guide it through, and now you have a half roll of tape. So we'll go ahead and just use that. I need to get a fresh piece that didn't fold on itself. Scissors are still the worst ever, just in case you guys were wondering. And so we're going to, I like to start here. This is how I tape. It's legal in the USAPL and the IPF to have 2 layers of tape around the thumb. Start at the bottom of the hand, push some of the skin out of the way, come around, try to keep it from rolling. And I like to kind of go and make sure I maintain some flexibility in the thumb as I go, loose on the back, and then tight around the front, making sure that I push that skin out of the way, because what you don't want to do is tape it super tight all the way up and then have the thumb be completely overpressured, because as soon as you put the pressure on it with the bar, you're going to start busting all the capillaries. It's going to make it hurt even more, which is defeating the purpose of taping it in the first place, protecting your skin. So loose on the back, tight through the front. I personally like to stop at this joint, because I don't need to tape here to protect this. My thumbs are pretty durable and I don't have an issue. I tend to get most of my tears from the hook in this area anyway, and so by protecting that, that's really all I need. And so I've gone up in one layer, and we will go back down with the second layer. Again, always testing to make sure that I can still close my thumb around without having any issues. You don't want it to be, you want to end the tape job again on the back of your hand, because you don't want to have the pieces here that are going to get loose like that. Take your scissors, or I guess you can just tear it. I'm a wuss, so I'll use my scissors, even though they're terrible. And there, that is all the tape that I need for the competition. It goes around the bar and prevents there from being as much bar abrasion on that part of the thumb where it's likely to bubble and tear. This will still, your thumb may still get a little bit beat up, but I think it's a better trade-off to have that be the case than to tape all the way up here and lose the ability to move that thumb. I've also had times where I tried to tape it all the way up where it physically was slipping because the tape would get slick. When you chalk here, make sure you chalk where the bar is in contact, and then chalk where your fingers will be contacting your thumb. And that is how I tape my thumb for a competition hook grip. Alright, so now that you know how to legally tape your hands for competition, we're going to talk about the differences between taping for competitions and taping for training. In a training session, especially if you're using the hook for most of your volume, you're going to have way more abrasive activity on the thumb, and sometimes that tape is going to get worn forward. It's going to start to move, it's going to get disjointed, and so you want to lock the tape down a little bit more effectively. And the way to go about doing that is you can start it the same way, where you start down here, push the skin out of the way, tape through like you normally would, and do kind of a little rush job here so you're not watching the same thing over and over again. Constantly make sure that you have enough space to be able to close your thumb, and then on the way back down, you are going to keep going down through, and we're going to anchor this at the wrist. I'm going to come down like this. You guys may see this in some of my videos where you make sure you have still some mobility through there, but we want to do that. Okay, so now what this is going to do is, again, this is the part of the tape that is constantly going to have the pressure on it. If the bar is rolling forward, it's trying to pull itself out of your hand. This extra bit of tape here that's anchored to your wrist is going to keep it from sliding off of your hand. Another thing that this kind of concept can be used for is to cover up callus tears. So we're going to do that next. So one of the biggest problems that a lot of lifters have when they're training their deadlift and they don't like to use straps, or their grip is a weak point so you can't use straps when you train, is that a lot of volume on the deadlifts, these bars have knurling, it can cut into your hands if your calluses are built up and they're not really kept for it, or sometimes just if it's a heavy weight and a sharp enough bar, you can get callus tears. If you guys watched the video that I did of the pro deadlift event at the Arnold Classic, my hands were so beat up from Friday's competition that by the time I got to Sunday, I still had a little bit too much of a callus here, and you can see still the remnants. This has been 2 weeks since where it kind of tore off, and I wanted to get back into training. I didn't want to take the time off to let it heal. I didn't want to have to use straps, and the next week I was attempting an 800-pound deadlift. So the way that I went about taping it, it wasn't that it healed up that quickly. There are methods to hand care that I think are very helpful that you can do to limit the amount of time that a tear is really affecting you, but some other ways are to use athletic tape or some other form of taping method to help and minimize the negative impact it has on your training. If you tear your hand in the middle of a training session, I had to do this quite a few times, and it proved to be very, very helpful. So first off, I just tore off a little piece of tape here. You can use a Band-Aid, but to cover, in this case I have the tear here, so I cover it with a cross piece like that, and that's just to kind of keep it from getting too much exposure to the fresh tape. And then we're going to use the same concept that we did with the thumb, where we were anchoring it to the wrist. So we're going to tear off some big strips. And it's a good thing that this stuff is so cheap. Yep, because we're going to mess everything up. And so we're going to start at the back of the wrist, go as far down as you need to, and then come up through the finger. Make sure that you have enough mobility through here. Again, you don't want to find yourself getting taped up like a mummy and not be able to move your hand. I'm going to do that so it anchors this there. Again, making fists and keeping some movement so that you're there, and then bringing it down past the wrist. We're going to take another piece. And we're going to, again, start this time at a bit of an angle. You can do this for any of the fingers. It's a little bit harder here on the end of the hand because I don't have another finger to loop this through. But we're going to go around, make sure that's nice and tight. Don't let it fold on itself like I seem to have done. Bring it down, and this is definitely a rushed job, just so the video isn't 2 hours long so I can do this correctly. Okay. So, why don't I just tape around the hand like this? Well, because when that gets sweaty or you get chalk on it, that's just going to slide off. We want it to be this vertical taping position so that we can lock it down with the wrist. Starting the tape usually in the back of the wrist so it's not going to contact you as much. Athletic trainers around the country are cringing right now at my terrible taping technique. Again, make sure that you're not cutting off the circulation. But that has just anchored everything down. And then with a pair of scissors, or if you are more confident in your tearing technique than I am, go ahead and clean that up. And we are, for the most part, going to be protected. That makes your hand a little bit more durable. It's not a permanent fix, but what it does allow you to do is it allows you to continue training without bleeding all over everything. And on any one of these knuckles, it can be very beneficial to allow you to get back to training with minimal time lost. And yeah, a lot of people have asked me if I was using straps in some of my more recent pull videos, but I was having so many issues because I was handling such heavy weights with such sharp bars that callus tears are a thing. And if you ever let up on your hand care, you open yourself up to a higher potential of getting tears. Or if you train in a cold garage like I do, the bar tends to stick to your hands and wants to tear anyway. So that is one way to deal with it. I'm sure there are many others, but that should cover just about everything that I wanted to talk about with how to tape your hands for competition deadlifts, for general training where you want to lock it down so that the tape lasts a little bit longer, and then for individual callus tears to protect your hands so you can continue training without having to switch to straps or to take time off from pulling. So thank you all. I hope you found this helpful, and I will talk to you all very, very soon. Bye.